The air in the La Merced market buzzed like a giant beehive. Bright colors exploded everywhere. Pyramids of shiny red apples, towering stacks of green limes, and baskets overflowing with pink dragon fruit. The smell of fresh tortillas mixed with spicy chili and sweet mangoes. People pushed and pulled, their voices a happy roar as they bought and sold. Hidden among all this life was Elena Martinez. Elena was a brave agent from the DEA, a special group that stops bad guys. Today, she wore a simple cotton dress and a wide straw hat, just like many other women shopping for dinner. Her dark hair was pulled back, and she carried a woven bag. No one would guess she was a sharp detective, not with her easy smile and calm way of looking at things. But behind her calm eyes, Elena was watching. Every person who walked by, every quick whisper, every car that slowed down, she noticed it all. Her job was to watch for bad guys, for people who did mean things. She was looking for a sign, a secret meeting, anything that seemed wrong in this busy, happy place. She moved slowly, pretending to be interested in a display of colorful pottery, then stopping to sniff of a bunch of fresh flowers. But her real eyes were always scanning the crowd, moving past laughing children and busy vendors. She had to be like a ghost, there but not seen, listening but not heard. Her heart beat a steady drum against her ribs, ready for anything. She knew that one wrong move could be very dangerous. Elena was pretending to admire a string of colorful beads, her eyes still sweeping across the faces in the market. She saw a man, tall and broad, standing near a stall piled high with shoes. He wasn't looking at the shoes. His eyes were like dark, hard stones, moving slowly, then stopping. They stopped on her. A cold shiver ran down Elena's back, even in the warm air. There was something in his stare, a sharp, angry look that made her heart pound. This wasn't just a shopper. This was a bad guy. Before Elena could even think, the man's hand shot inside his jacket. In a flash, a dark, shiny gun appeared. He didn't shout. He didn't warn. He just pointed straight at her. Bang! The sound was like a giant firecracker exploding right next to her ear. A clay pot on the stall beside her shattered into 100 pieces. Then another bang. Screams ripped through the happy market noise. People shrieked, their faces filled with fear. They dropped their shopping bags, spilling fruit and vegetables everywhere. The crowd turned into a rushing river of scared people, pushing and stumbling, trying to get away from the awful noise. Elena didn't need anyone to tell her. Her training took over. That gun was aimed at her. Those bullets were meant for her. This wasn't just a random act. She was the target. She had to move, and she had to move now. The second shot whistled past Elena's ear, a terrifying whisper of death. Without thinking, she dropped to the ground, rolling fast behind a tall fruit stand. Oranges and papayas tumbled around her, creating a soft, colorful barrier. The wooden stand groaned as more bullets slammed into it, splintering the wood. Elena felt the spray of wood chips on her face. Her heart hammered, but her mind was clear. She couldn't stay here. She peeked around the side of the stand. The shooter, a sicario, was moving through the panicked crowd, his dark eyes still locked on her last known spot. He was getting closer. Elena knew she had only seconds. With a burst of speed, she scrambled to her feet and darted away, not towards the market's edge, but deeper into its winding paths. She pushed past crying shoppers, her small frame weaving through the chaos. A woman's shopping basket overturned, spilling bright red tomatoes that Elena dodged. The market's narrow aisles soon opened onto a busy street, filled with honking taxis and rumbling buses. This was her chance. She burst out of the market, blending into the stream of people on the sidewalk. She didn't look back. She used every person, every parked car, every street vendor's cart as a shield. She ran, her breath coming in ragged gasps, her mind racing. The sounds of the market faded behind her, replaced by the roar of city traffic. She was out in the open, exposed, but also hidden among hundreds of strangers. She had to keep moving. Begin. Elena ran, her legs pumping hard, but she knew the sicario was close. She could feel his dark presence, like a cold shadow, chasing her. He was not just following, he was hunting. She ducked into a small clothing shop, quickly pulling a bright scarf from a rack and wrapping it around her head, hoping to change her look just enough. She moved through the aisles, past racks of colorful dresses, and slipped out the back door into a narrow, dirty alleyway. The alley smelled of trash and old food, but it was a path. She ran, her soft shoes making little sound on the rough ground. She could hear the faint shouts and the distant sirens, but they were too far away to help her now. She had to rely on herself. Elena darted out of the alley and into another busy street, dodging a bicycle and a street vendor pushing a cart of ice cream. She didn't just run straight. She used her smarts. She went into a busy bakery, pretending to look at the sweetbreads, then slipped out another exit. She weaved through a small park, cutting across the grass, then disappeared down a tiny side street. Every few steps, she would quickly glance over her shoulder. She saw him once, a flash of his dark clothes as he turned a corner, always a block or two behind, but always there. He was like a shark, circling, waiting for her to make a mistake. The city was huge, but it felt like a small cage with him in it. And begin. Elena's lungs burned, each breath a painful gasp. She dashed down what looked like a promising shortcut, a narrow gap between two tall buildings. But as she rounded the final corner, her heart sank. It was a dead end. A tall, grimy brick wall stood before her, mocking her desperate sprint. She spun around, just as the Sicario stepped into the alleyway, blocking her only exit. His face was grim, his eyes still like hard stones, but now with a cruel glint of triumph. He raised his gun slowly, a silent promise of an end. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her. This was it. But then, her eyes darted around. To her left, an overflowing metal trash can stood by the wall. Its lid was half off, a pile of empty bottles and cans spilling out. A desperate idea sparked in her mind. It was a long shot, but it was all she had. With a sudden burst of energy, Elena launched herself at the trash can. She grabbed its rim and, with a powerful heave, pulled it over. The metal clanged loudly as it hit the ground, and a cascade of bottles, cans, and debris crashed onto the alley floor with a deafening racket. The Sicario, surprised by the sudden, loud noise, flinched for a split second, his aim wavering. That was all Elena needed. In that tiny moment, she dropped to her knees and slid under a broken-down delivery truck parked nearby, disappearing into the dark shadows beneath it. And begin. Under the truck, Elena held her breath, listening. She heard the Sicario curse loudly, then the crunch of broken glass as he searched. He was angry. She waited until his heavy footsteps faded, then carefully, quietly, she crawled out. Her clothes were dirty, her hands scraped, but she was alive. Her first thought was to get help. She needed a phone. Her own special DEA phone was back at her safe house, useless now. She scanned the street. A small convenience store was a few blocks away. If she could just get there, she could call her team, tell them what was happening. They would send backup, fast. She started running again, a desperate sprint towards the store. Every shadow seemed to hold the Sicario. Every sudden noise made her jump. She darted into a bus, riding it for 2 stops, hoping to throw him off. But as she got off, she felt it again, that cold feeling, that sense of being watched. She ducked into a crowded plaza, weaving through families and street performers. She felt his eyes on her, a burning sensation on her back, even though she couldn't see him. It was like he had a special way of knowing where she was, a sixth sense for his prey. He was a ghost, a silent hunter. No matter how many turns she took, how many people she blended into, he was always there, a relentless shadow. She tried a payphone on a street corner, but it was broken. She saw a woman with a cell phone, but before she could ask, the woman hurried away, startled by Elena's wild look. The Sicario was a step behind, always. The city, once her cover, now felt like a giant, dangerous game board where she was the mouse and he was the cat. And begin. The Sicario's persistence was chilling. Elena had used every trick she knew. Quick turns, changing direction, even doubling back. Yet, every time she thought she'd gained some distance, that cold feeling returned, the knowledge that he was still tracking her. It was more than just good chasing. It felt like he knew her next move before she made it. He wasn't just following her path. He was predicting it. A terrible thought began to form in Elena's mind. How could he be so close, so consistently? Did he have help? Was someone feeding him information, telling him where she was going? The idea made her stomach clench. Her undercover work was supposed to be a secret. Only a very few people knew she was in Mexico City, and even fewer knew her exact location. Was there a leak? Was one of her own team working against her? The thought was like a cold poison spreading through her veins. She ducked into a small cafe, pretending to order a coffee. Her eyes darted to the reflection in the window, searching for any sign of him or anyone else who might be watching. She saw a man across the street, talking into a small earpiece, his gaze fixed on the cafe entrance. Her heart pounded harder. It wasn't just the Sicario. He had eyes and ears on the ground. This wasn't a simple chase. It was a well-planned hunt. The entire city felt like a trap, and she was caught in its center. She had to break free, not just from the Sicario, but from whoever was helping him. And begin. The realization that the Sicario wasn't alone spurred Elena to move even faster. She broke away from the cafe, weaving through the afternoon crowds, her eyes scanning for any opportunity to gain real distance. Her path led her towards the pulsing heart of the city's transport system, the train station. It was a swirling mass of people, a dizzying maze of platforms and tracks, a perfect place to disappear or to be cornered. The station was a roar of voices, announcements, and the squeal of train brakes. Elena pushed through the throngs of commuters, her gaze fixed on the departure boards. A train to Coyoacán was just pulling away from Platform 3. This was it, her best chance. She sprinted towards the platform, ignoring the surprised shouts of people she bumped past. She could hear him behind her, closer now, his heavy footsteps thudding on the concrete. She risked a glance back. He was there, pushing through the crowd with a grim determination, his eyes locked on her. The train was moving faster, slowly picking up speed. Without hesitation, Elena leaped, grabbing the handrail of the last car. Her feet scrabbled for purchase on the narrow steps. With a grunt, she pulled herself aboard, tumbling into the carriage. She looked back through the closing doors. The Sicario was at the edge of the platform, his hand outstretched, his face a mask of frustration and anger. He had missed her by mere seconds. The train pulled away, leaving him behind, a small, dark figure growing smaller against the backdrop of the station. Elena sank onto a seat, her body trembling, but a small spark of hope flickered within her. She was on the move, and, for the moment, she was safe. And begin. The train rattled along, a rhythmic rumble beneath Elena's feet. She caught her breath, trying to calm her racing heart. She was safe for now. As she slowly looked around the train car, her detective instincts, still sharp even after the chase, kicked in. She scanned the faces of the other passengers, looking for anything out of place, any sign of danger. Most people were just commuters, tired after a long day or lost in their own thoughts. But then, Elena noticed a young woman sitting a few seats away. She was quietly reading a book, her dark hair falling over her shoulders. Nothing unusual, except for one small detail, a striking silver necklace around her neck. It wasn't just any necklace. It had a very old-looking, carved jade pendant, glowing softly under the train lights. Elena frowned. Something about that necklace, and the young woman wearing it, felt important. Then, a new thought, cold and unsettling, crept in her mind. She thought back to the Sicario at the station, his face filled with fury as the train pulled away. He hadn't just been angry that she escaped. There was something else in his eyes, a desperate urgency that went beyond just missing his target. And then it clicked. She remembered seeing the Sicario's eyes darting around the market, not just looking for her, but also scanning the crowd. Was it possible he wasn't really looking for her? Was he looking for someone? Elena's gaze drifted back to the young woman with the jade necklace. A chill ran through her. The Sicario wasn't just chasing Elena. He was also looking at the young woman. It was a strange and scary feeling that she had been wrong all along. And begin. The realization hit Elena like a sudden, cold wave. It wasn't just a feeling anymore. It was a clear, sharp truth. The Sicario's fury at the train station, the way his eyes had swept the market, the strange feeling that he knew where she was going. It all made sense now. He wasn't after her. She was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, an accidental obstacle. The real target was the young woman with the jade necklace. Elena replayed the morning in her mind. She had been standing near the pottery stall, close to where the young woman was looking at some colorful scarves. When the Sicario had first appeared, his eyes weren't fixed on Elena from the start. They had been searching, scanning the crowd, and then, for a brief moment, they had paused. They had paused on the young woman. Elena, being a trained agent, had instantly noticed his dark stare and had reacted, making herself a target by her quick movement. The Sicario, seeing her reaction, had simply switched his focus, thinking she was protecting the real target or was somehow involved. The shocking truth twisted Elena's stomach. All this time, she had been fighting for her life, running through the streets, believing she was the one marked for death. But it was all a mistake. She was a distraction, a shield, unknowingly put between the hunter and his true prey. The thought was both a relief and a terrifying burden. Relief, because she wasn't personally targeted. Burden, because now she knew an innocent person was in danger because of her accidental involvement. She had to act. And begin. The train slowed for a station, and Elena's eyes snapped to the doors. This was her chance. She couldn't let the Sicario get to the young woman. The thought of an innocent person being caught in this deadly game because of her accidental presence filled Elena with a fierce resolve. She quickly moved towards the young woman, who was still engrossed in her book. Just as the doors hissed open, the Sicario, who must have jumped on the train at the last second or had a contact on board, appeared at the far end of the car. His eyes immediately locked onto the young woman and her jade necklace. He started to move, a predatory gleam in his eyes. "Get down," Elena shouted, pushing the young woman roughly into the seat, startling her. Before the Sicario could react, Elena launched herself forward. She used her training, a swift, practiced move, hitting him hard in the stomach. He grunted, stumbling back against the train wall. Passengers gasped, some screaming, as the quiet train car turned into a sudden battlefield. The Sicario, though surprised, was strong. He swung a heavy fist at Elena, but she dodged, twisting away. She grabbed his arm, using his own momentum against him, and spun him around, slamming him into the doorframe. The train lurched, and he lost his footing. Elena saw her chance. With a powerful kick, she sent him sprawling onto the floor of the train. She quickly pinned him down, using a wrist lock she had learned in her training. He struggled, but Elena held firm, her grip like iron. The young woman, wide-eyed and shaking, watched from her seat, the jade necklace still gleaming around her neck. And begin. The train screeched to a halt at the next station, and within moments, the sounds of sirens filled the air. Police officers rushed onto the train car, their eyes wide at the sight of Elena, a stranger, holding a powerful man pinned to the floor. Elena quickly explained who she was and what had happened, showing her DEA badge as proof. The officers, understanding the gravity of the situation, swiftly took the Sicario into custody. The young woman with the jade necklace, still shaken but now safe, stepped forward. Elena gently helped her up, reassuring her that the danger was over. The young woman thanked Elena, her voice trembling but full of gratitude. Elena could see the fear slowly leaving her eyes, replaced by a deep relief. As the train emptied and the commotion died down, Elena felt a mix of relief and deep thought. She was safe. The young woman was safe. But the experience had left a mark. It was shocking how easily she had been pulled into a complex trap, how cleverly the bad guys had used a simple misunderstanding to their advantage. She had been the unwitting pawn in a much bigger, hidden game. The thought of being so wrong, of having fought so hard for a mistaken reason, made her feel strange. It was a tricky game they played, a dangerous dance where targets could change in a blink. Elena looked at the jade necklace, now safe around the young woman's neck. There's a whole story there, a reason why this innocent person was caught in such a dangerous web. It wasn't her case, but it was a puzzle she now knew existed. As she stepped off the train, the city seemed different, more complex, more full of hidden dangers and surprising truths. She was relieved to be alive, but the experience had taught her a harsh lesson. Sometimes, things are not at all what they seem. End.